one of a small circle of people regarded by the monks of Mount Athos as fellow workers. So he was respected by the fathers and the priests and the monks of Mount Athos as a fellow traveler on the way. On page 206, he says, this entire book, this whole book is about metanoia, or teshuva in Hebrew, or tauba in Arabic, repentance. And let's see here on page 188, that may seem like an interesting thing to say about a 350 page book. This entire book about esoteric Christianity and the essential luminous wisdom of the early church fathers and the monks of Mount Athos, the entire book is about metanoia, or repentance, which, interestingly enough, was the first teaching of Yeshua and the first teaching of John the Baptist, Saint John the Baptist. And I would argue is the central message of the Quran, as well as the central message of all of the Israelite prophets. Now, to shed a little bit more light on this and to stick with the material in this book, on page 188, he says the whole life of the monk becomes a study of repentance. His way of life, a way of repentance, writes Abbot George Capasanis of the Athos Monastery of Gregorio. He too is familiar with the idea of the new man, but he speaks of a more difficult birth, not an easy metanoia, but a metanoia of impossible effort. In the midst of the birth pangs of repentance, the new man, according to God, is slowly begotten. Belonging to the struggle for repentance is the effort of continually guarding one's thoughts. It is by putting away from oneself all of the evil and demonic temptations that act to soil the mind that one is able to keep the heart pure. And it is such a heart that reflects God. Then he refers to the familiar beatitude, blessed are the pure in heart, for they shall see God. The struggle is a struggle for purity of heart, for apatheia, in the words of the early fathers such as Evagrius. Consider the meaning, the significance of this idea of a struggle. It occurs when we believe that, having seen the emptiness of everyday life, we have chosen the better part, like Mary in the famous gospel story of Martha and Mary. And he continues, absolutely beautiful. In page 184, he says, it is fundamental to the esoteric tradition, as to all Orthodox teachings today, that grace and effort are both almost equally necessary to salvation, or in inner terms, to the inner transformation of man. And this really is the key here. This really is the key, is the transformation of our souls, the rebirth of our souls. And this is the inner meaning of metanoia, or teshuva, is this dying and rebirth.